Oh, can you hear this?
Yes, we can. We can hear you very well.
Oh, okay. All right.
Are you ready to go?
I am ready. Okay, so I should stop just talking to myself and start talking to everybody out there in Wisconsin and the UP. Well, that's
Correct.
really exciting. So, my name is Robin Lickle, as you can see on my slide there. I am located in Madison. And I do work at the Salvation Army Singles Women's Shelter here in Madison. I am also a therapist. Right now, the population I'm primarily working with are women in recovery from mental health and substance abuse issues, and certainly trauma. I am also a trauma therapist. I've been trained in EMDR, heart math. I'm actually beginning a new training on something called somatic experiencing. So I kind of have an interesting combination of things that I've learned along the way, and as trauma-informed care has moved into view as a way to provide services, I've been able to kind of be a part of the process in the behavioral health field at the agency that I work at, which is called ARC, Outpatient Services here in Madison, and it is an agency that serves women and their families. And then also it's moved into homeless service provision, and a set of trauma-informed care principles also have become established. So if by any chance the idea of trauma-informed care, if this is the first time you've ever heard of it, I believe by the time we are done today you will feel comfortable with the term. Another part of the presentation today also is to take a look at, understanding what trauma is. Why are we adding an understanding of trauma to the things that we look at when we do what we do, or with the people that we serve? How does that, if adding a new understanding of trauma itself to our knowledge, how can that be helpful? And how can that be helpful very, very specifically in the provision of homeless services? So here's what I would like, hopefully, for us to be able to get through today, is to one of the biggest or more important principles of this model that we're calling trauma-informed care or trauma-informed services. One of the key principles is to really understand trauma. And, to some degree we all have varying funds of knowledge or familiarity of what trauma is. Is trauma PTSD, or is it when something bad happens to you? Does it happen to you when you suffered childhood abuse, or when you get into a car accident, or you have go through a tornado? We have some conceptualization of trauma, and certainly in the work that we do, we are familiar with the ideas of trauma. So the idea of taking what we understand about trauma and putting it within the context of the work that we do. And if we were to do that, would that be helpful for us as service providers? And another piece of that is really in that very practical application of trauma-informed care, and really understanding the question of why. Why is this coming to be something that is a model that is being more and more accepted, even more and more expected in deliverables in service contracting? Trauma-informed care is really a norm now, and we will hear more and more about it as we add it into the way we do our work. And then, trauma-informed services, what does that mean? But then what if we were trauma-informed helpers? What does that look like? Okay, so what we can do, depending on how this works, if somebody is having some questions or something pops in as a clarification, I'm going to do a few things that are a little technical and a little brainy, literally about the brain. you can feel free to send that in, and I think I'll be able to see it there and kind of go, somebody was asking about this, or to clarify this along the way. So I think we can do that. So let's just kind of go back to what do we mean when we say trauma-informed care? And I think it's helpful maybe to look at it at multiple levels for a moment, and really, you know, from the broadest picture, the broadest scope, to say, okay, if we looked at it within the homeless service delivery system, we're talking about a paradigm shift in the way we serve people. We are considering shifting the way we see our population in a new way. We're going to add a lens, if you will. We're going to add a lens of trauma. And at an agency level, you're kind of talking more about the protocols, the policies and procedures, and really looking specifically at the way the agency operates. And is there a trauma-informed care model in place there? And they even have trauma-informed care assessments for agencies based on the principles, where you can kind of take a look at that checklist and really kind of see where your agency stacks up within the trauma-informed care or trauma-informed service principles. And then, again, each individual staff, the helpers. You know, what does it mean to be a trauma-informed helper? And the way I sort of conceptualize it is really the way we be, the way we operate day to day. And because we're there on the ground, interacting, serving the people that we serve, it is seeing that individual person in front of you in a slightly different way. We're going to, as I say, drop the trauma lens in there and see if it helps us do our job better, wherein that not only will we be more helpful to the client, but we will actually find it is less stressful for us as well. So let me just give you a very brief history. Where did trauma-informed care come from? And it actually began in the mental health treatment system. And it might help for a moment to just kind of consider the context at the time, the medical model, if you will. And you might be familiar with these sort of constructs. You know, the doctor, the helper, the healthcare provider were the experts, and the patients were broken, and they're given their various labels of ways they were broken, right? By their diagnoses, they were schizophrenics or they were borderlines, given those kind of labels where their entire identity is tied into their what's wrong with them, right? And so then they came to the experts. The patients were given the recommendations and by the experts who knew best, and this plan was designed for them. And if they didn't follow it, they were non-compliant, right? They need to take their meds just because it's going to help them. And didn't matter if there were side effects, or didn't matter if the person really didn't like how they felt on it, they were just going to be non-compliant. And that's what we would label it, or we're just going to say, nope, non-compliant. And at the time, those kinds of medications, even though they are getting better and better with each generation of medications, many of them had heavy-duty side effects. So, asking somebody to take a medication that really changes them in ways that they don't like, we call them non-compliant. And when behavior got in a way that was really out of hand and too difficult for us to manage, we resorted to seclusion and restraint. And so patients in, I believe it was Vermont, in a state psychiatric hospital said, not only does this not help us, this actually further traumatizes us when we are sent into a seclusion room without any clothes on, or we're tied down. It not only doesn't help, it makes it worse, it re-traumatizes